Bill Wurtz. How you doing?
I don't know. You just yelled that a lot louder than I was expecting.
I try. It's all about excitement at the start. I'm trying to keep the viewer retention. You know what I mean? Keep it going.
Yeah.
Have it blasting from the start.
I would definitely. That's right. Hi.
How you doing?
Good.
Good. I'm also good. Thank you so much for being here. Real quick, also thank you to everyone who's watching live, everyone who's going to be watching this.
No. Don't worry about that. No one's watching.
Okay. To the people who aren't watching, the people who are not watching, real quick, I just want to let you guys know that after like a year of working on it, the show finally has an official website. It's thevibechamber.com. It's got, the videos, the full episodes, the audio podcasts, all that stuff. And it also has a store on there. You got 3 things that you can buy. It's a shirt, a pullover, and a hat. That's it. No nonsense. None of that cheap printing. Everything's embroidered. $5 to ship. It only ships in the United States. $5 to ship anywhere in the States. So I want to let you just know about that if you want to check that over. That's thevibechamber.com. Bill, again, thank you so much. I know you're a really busy man because you put out what seems like incredibly labor-intensive content on...
Right. I thought you were going to say I do it very... I thought you were going to say I put things out very frequently. And I was going to get into a disagreement with you.
Well, what I was going to say is
you didn't say that.
You put out incredibly labor-intensive content. I know you might not see it as frequently, but this whole past year, you've posted basically once a month.
Yeah, I did it on a dare.
So
with myself. Yeah.
Do you give yourself some kind of work schedule to keep yourself?
Well, sometimes. Yeah, you sink so low because it gets really bad. I mean, because you can't, because you're drowning in what happens when you don't have that, and then it's like suddenly it gets so bad that it's an emergency that you have to just buckle up and just etch a very breakneck schedule in stone. And
so do you start, like, say you're starting a video, do you always have a concept like, oh, you're sleeping and you have a dream about something, or one day it just hits and then you decide to do something? Or do you sit down and say, let me come up with an idea?
I should mention this. I screwed this up last time, and I promised myself that I was not going to screw it up again. Based on like the times that we live in, or maybe it's just my lifestyle or whatever, I don't get on these shows very often. I don't get into any kind of situation where I'm actually talking and I'm not my own editor very often. And I'm perfectly aware that it's just a muscle that you build up over time, and you always get better at it over time. And I'm just perpetually out of practice because I just don't do this. So I actually secretly have a very strong desire to not only be on these shows all the time, but probably to be the host. And that desire is creeping up more and more and more and more and more over the years, and it's killing me. I have to do it, and yet I'm so badly out of practice. So what happens when you jump into these things and you haven't done it in a while? It's a huge mind fuck in the first several moments. So regardless of whether or not I answer the question you just asked, which I think I will, but I can't skip the part where I talk about how big of a mind fuck it is to be where I am right now. The last time I did this, I forgot. I didn't get a chance to really explain that. So therefore, the entire, like, where I actually was at and where I was pretending to be at just continued to diverge. And the whole thing got weirder and weirder. But I figured the sooner I mentioned the mind fuck, that I'm basically tripping right now. But as soon as I mentioned how badly I'm tripping right now, probably the sooner things will actually start to make sense.
Trust me, I totally understand.
For all of us.
It's good to lay it.
And you've been there because you do this, and you can recall what it might have been like on your first show or first couple of shows.
Bill, I started in September of 2020, I think.
You just lost the bet.
What'd you say? Oh, did I do it? Oh, did I say?
It's okay.
I think it's a New York thing.
I'm going to keep score.
Of how many times I say your name in the middle of a sentence? You know what? Write it down.
Never mind.
If I was like a quicker editor, I could put like a tag on that, but I'm too lazy to do that.
There's nothing actually wrong with it until you think about it, and never mind.
Well, I was gonna say I started the show in September of 2020, and I had absolutely no experience. Like I had made like YouTube videos here and there, but like I'd never any experience really talking to someone on camera and having it, hopefully
Yeah.
be entertaining, which is why this is live, because my
I
theory
know.
when I started it was just force myself to do it, and I can't go back and fix it because then there'll be
Yeah,
people who will
of
know.
course. Yeah.
And it's like a muscle that you have to work out. But to be fully honest, I stress the entire, like the week before, I'm okay. And then it hits like 1 p.m. if it's an 8 o'clock show. And I'm stressed,
Yeah.
like, because every time the cameras come on, I'm like, I don't know if I know how to do this anymore, which I think is a
Yeah.
normal reaction for
Yeah.
anyone who does stuff like this.
Yeah.
But, it gets a little better every time, but it has never been perfect. So trust me, don't feel awkward at all, because I know it's been a little while for you.
Yeah. And then of course, I mean, we've been, not only people that host shows are on camera, but just people that have normal conversations in a way are doing set design. So, you want, like you wonder if, how likely is that, how likely is it actually that they happen to have their bookshelf directly behind the camera, or you know yeah.
That's like I know, like Stephen Colbert. I just saw today, I saw TikTok that Stephen Colbert apparently is a big Lord of the Rings fan.
Hmm.
And he has a bookshelf that's hidden, like you can't even see it on camera.
Right.
And he just has it, and it just has the Lord of the Rings trilogy just for like, because he likes it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but so what I was asking about though. So when you come down, or when you sit down and you say, I'm going to make a video, do you know when you sit down, at your keyboard or at a computer, I'm going to make a narrative video or I'm going to make a song, or do you just kind of
Well,
start?
no. It's the it starts with the selection process, which means actually, it's before the selection process. I do some writing, but not for that video.
Hmm.
I don't know if this is like super boring to talk about, because I can tell you that I can tell you the actual truth.
No, give me all of
But
it.
because this is like, yeah, but you may regret that. It'll take multiple hours, and like there will be no comic relief whatsoever. So this is the kind of thing you learn after year 3 of doing shows. It's like how much to tell the truth and how much to like just have fun.
Hmm.
So anyway, yeah. So I don't know. Yeah,
But so you like,
right.
what do you mean by when you say the selection process though? What do you mean?
Selection is you choose from the thing and the stuff.
Like you have do you have like a list of
I have a
ideas?
list. Yes, I have a list.
Okay, and then you're like, okay, this is
Maybe
the
you should
best.
just ask me. You should just ask me yes or no questions, because that'd be a lot more interesting. And then
Um,
eventually we can get it. Yeah, there's a list, and they're not. They don't have to be finished. In the old days, there was the idea that like everything in the list should be finished, and then eventually I had a breakthrough, and I realized actually they don't have to be finished at all. The list can contain things that are as small as 1% finished or even less. And then once they're selected, then you do the remainder of the writing, and then you go into production.
do you tend to go in, like, do you have trends in terms of the kind of things that you like to make? Because I noticed recently you've been making a lot of like the more narrative videos that might have like
Right.
song,
Yeah.
but they're not full on songs. Do you kind of go like,
Exactly.
you get in a,
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what it was all about with that. It was because like for years and years I felt like I hadn't done enough songs, and I didn't get a chance to do enough songs.
Mhm.
Because that was what it was all about for years and years and years. That was like the most important thing. And then I discovered doing non-songs, and then whatever. But yeah, it always felt like I hadn't done enough songs, especially songs that are like 3+ minutes with video,
Mhm.
because that's kind of not. It takes the full length, song and video takes some significant production time. So yeah.
Is it a lot harder? I'm just assuming, but is it a lot harder to make a music video, with a song? Not just because you have to produce a whole song, but also if you're going to animate it, you have to then have different scenes for all these different lyrics versus a narrative video where you can kind of put it in one, quote unquote set and have it all there.
Yeah. I mean, there was one song I did in the past year that was actually all on one set, essentially,
Mhm.
which was pretty interesting. But different things get, it's, I don't know. See, and here's the other thing. I don't know how much to care about the actual question, because really, looking at it from a distance, a lot of what goes on these shows is like, it's actually less important to give a damn about what the original question was,
Mhm.
in terms of what I should do as like answering the question, or as either one of us. Yeah, I have a lot to learn. I'm just thinking about this. Yeah, yeah. I don't know.
It's a learning process, Bill. It's all good.
Yeah,
When
yeah.
you make a video
Oh,
like
I gotta. There you go.
when you make
Two.
when you make a video, so you said that you made a whole video. where it's like all one scene. So is that literally you're taking like one 3D file and you're doing it and you're rendering it all in basically one shot? You're
It
not
actually was,
chopping?
yeah, yeah. And that's on the quick schedule. That's ambitious to really get into the serious modeling. The way it ended up working when I was on the recent schedule, which was 3 weeks
Hmm.
for the whole thing. At first, it was just songs. It was all songs. I didn't really have a plan for how to do non-songs because I was like way behind on song. I felt like I hadn't done enough songs in my life, so it was just like keep doing songs until I don't feel like that anymore. So that's to answer another question I think you had at one point. That's why I switched to non-songs because I finally felt like I had done enough songs, and then I started to really, really want to do non-songs. But with non-songs, there's a problem because here's what happens with non-songs. Really, the best thing to do is merge the non-song with the song. That's what we're going for in life. I feel like that is what makes songs better and it makes non-songs better if they go together. Really, the music's best friend is non-music, and non-music's best friend is music.
Hmm.
So that's what you try to get to. But when you do that, it gets kind of dicey because bureaucratically it gets very confusing. And the same thing happens with like musicals because like let's say you have like you got some non-song stuff and then you got some song stuff. What if you go into a song bit thing that's musical and it actually launches to like seemingly higher heights than just a straight up song would do? But because it's part of a musical or part of a combination of music and non-music, what do you then do with that song? Are you allowed to release that song as just as an audio song on its own, or does it without the context? So you get into this weird crisis that the better the song bits within the non-song get, the more tragic it feels to not be able to actually do anything with that non-song.
When
So
you're
that's where it becomes a confusing sort of bureaucratic disaster, and that held me back from really doing non-songs. It definitely held me back from doing like non-songs that really are halfway between songs and non-songs. It got me scared to do it because I was scared that the music would get too good and it would make me sad and confused and not know what to do with the music because it gets closer and closer to being a song and yet you still can't release it separately.
So when you're writing a song, are you visualizing the video and do you ever write a part of the song knowing, "Oh, when I turn this into a music video, I can do this?" Or do you just kind of do the
Yeah,
song and then add and just find out how you can like exploit little parts of the song to make a good video?
yeah. Technically, there's no like requirement that it has to be any certain video, but I mean, a lot of the times it's obvious,
Mhm.
and it's also I've found it's a good songwriting trick, regardless of whether I use what I'm thinking of in the video when it comes time to do the video, because the video is always done completely after the song. Maybe that's a good idea, maybe that's a bad idea, but it's yeah, regardless of whether I use whatever I'm thinking of, it's a good songwriting trick. So when I'm thinking, when I'm in the songwriting process, just writing the song, it seems to be a pretty good trick to put it in a scene.
Gotcha. Do you
Just put a person somewhere in your mind, and then just it actually can launch you into musical ideas way more readily,
so you kind of use
regardless
it
of
as like a
whether I end up using.
cross like a cross inspiration?
Yeah, but regardless of whether I even use that in the video,
Mhm.
I usually don't take it that seriously to try to remember because I don't know. Maybe I should though.
I mean, hey, it seems to be working.
I don't know.
So do you always start like when you're making something, do you always start and finish that exact project or do you tend to
It
kind of like do bits
yeah.
and pieces?
No, it turns out, yeah, I sort of feel like I answered that question at a certain point. I mean, yeah, I mean for myself, yeah, no, I do it sequentially,
Mhm.
like finish one and the next, because I every now and then I someone suggests that sometimes, or I'll think of it because but it gives you a license to escape if you're allowed to switch projects. It suddenly it's just another variable to worry about. Like, okay, all the things that I'm confused about on this project add into the fact now I'm not even sure if I should keep working on this project. So it just makes it more confusing and it dilutes the whole thing, and it ends up being way simpler if it's all in a direct linear line. At least that's what I've learned.
Do you like to
So yeah,
take
it's
time
it's
in
sequential.
between projects so that way you can kind of let your brain refresh and kind of make sure you don't burn yourself out?
Well, yeah, well, yes and no. I mean, yes, I do like to do that, but it adds to the torture of the relentless march of time going by because it already takes so long probably to do each one of these things. So the last thing you want to do is add time to that. So yeah, it's torturous in that way, but yes, I do need it. So I do take the time.
What's the quickest that you've ever been able to get a video out where you're like, man, everything's just flowing right and it just kind of pops out versus some of the others, where they're like, it's kind of like pulling teeth to get it, finished.
I don't know. It depends if I'm on a schedule. I mean, if I'm on a schedule, it's not gonna get done early per se, but if I'm not on a schedule, it takes a long time. I I'm not really sure. I don't think it ever gets done quickly unless it is really short. Unless there's no pressure. Unless I literally don't think I'm going to release it. That's what makes things get done. Is if you literally don't think you're going to release it.
Do you
if
have
it's like something you did for an experiment or something?
Do you have a backlog? Do you have hard drives of videos that are like 90% there that you're like, you know what? It's not right.
No, because at least not any time in the last 10 years. Because like at a certain point, I got serious about the sequential thing. Like you select the thing and that is the thing, and it is being selected for production, and you do not do anything else until, no, you don't release anything else until that's released, unless some kind of unforeseen crisis happens.
So you started what, in the early 2000s uploading videos, right?
No, I didn't put anything online until 2014.
Okay. I don't know why I thought you had done some before that. So 2014 is when you really got started. Before that,
you said upload.
Putting stuff.
I've been doing stuff for decades before that, but it was offline.
Okay, and
then a huge percentage of that has made it to the website, and that's one of the reasons I have the website, is because I can type in the correct date that it was made, and not the date that it was uploaded.
Okay, so you had not. So
although now, yeah,
you just had like all this stuff that you had made, and it was all finished, but it was just you're the only person who would watch it.
Some stuff is finished, some is, whatever. As you go back further, there's stuff that is like, I don't really know what finished means when you go back that far.
Does that happen a lot now, where you have videos that you go back and you retroactively add them to the website, or are you basically just working on new projects?
I do add things now that were made in the past, and there are things that I'm doing now that will probably be retroactively added in the future.
Mm-hmm.
Quite often bits of things that are part of the production process, like little artifacts, like maybe an image or maybe a 3D model or something, or just a little bit of, maybe if I did a screen recording to draw a line on the video, maybe that video separately will be a neat little artifact, and those will sort of sneak their way onto the website at some point, correctly dated for when they were made, but they won't show up until the whole website is a archaeological endeavor, largely.
Well, actually, I wanted to ask, you're talking about like building 3D models and stuff like that. I don't know if you've seen the intro to this show is 100% 3D animated.
I should have seen it, but I didn't.
Don't worry about it. Like I'll send it. You'll see it. I'll send you this later, and you can check it out. But it's fully 3D animated. I self-taught myself this program called Blender, and the thing is, I'm like 50-50 split between making my own assets, 3D models, and getting them online. Do you make everything from scratch, all of your 3D models?
I do now. And a few years ago, when I wasn't really all fully on 3D, I was just barely hanging on to tiny bits of 3D. I would get a thing or two here and there. That amounts to a total of probably 3 things, which are tiny little bits. There wasn't much 3D before, but ever since I've been doing all 3D, I do make all my own stuff.
Okay. One thing else I wanted to ask you is, because I went to music school, and for a long time I was really into music producing. I produced the theme song of this and the intro and all that stuff. So when you're writing a song, start to finish, do you sit down and do you I know you said you do things sequentially, but do you ever mix the producing, the writing, and the mixing process, or are those like write at the keyboard, I produce at the computer, and then I mix?
I had somewhat of a, epiphany or breakthrough or something, probably, like, I'm embarrassed to say how long ago, like I got into most of the important sort of things that I live by today. But it was at least 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Like I really kind of realized, okay, a lot of people write in the studio, they write in the production, they set up some 8-bar loops and and then put some stuff over it. I understand a lot of people write that way. And you can do really cool stuff that way. I suddenly realized that it plays way better to my strengths if I don't do that.
Okay.
If I complete the writing before going into the production. Why? It's so that you're so much more nimble. You can have the freedom to break out of the 8 bars at bar 6.5 and just take a detour, and you can. But if you have already something laid down in the production that has, that goes out to the end of bar 8, it's much more of a big project to try to break that. Whereas if you're just sitting with just a keyboard or writing or whatever, you can make the thing go anywhere you want, much easier.
It's less
and
linear.
You can have so much more fun. I do it in order linearly, but I'm saying you're not locked in to the 8 bars you just laid down.
Mm-hmm.
You can ditch out of there at bar 6.2 and go and, take a detour.
Do you write it all mentally, or do you actually like transcribe everything, put it on paper?
The way it is now, it'll be the writing file will be just keyboard and vocal.
Okay.
Usually just recorded on a room mic. Sort of paste it together or whatever. And on the click, also very important to finalize the tempo by the time you get beyond 4 or 8 bars or so. Like by the time you get beyond 10 or 15 seconds of the song, I'd say definitely finalize the tempo, just because otherwise you get into like a tempo crisis. Because when you're writing and you're going over the same parts over and over, you're going to tend to sort of play through it faster and faster. And then you're going to go into the next section kind of thinking that that's where it's going to be at. And then you're going to write stuff that won't make any sense at the original tempo. So you get 2 sections that are happier at different tempos. And it's just not good. So I'd say definitely finalize the tempo as quickly as you can and then keep the click going.
How long does it take you? Is it longer for you to write music versus producing it, or vice versa?
Absolutely not. Writing is much, 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 much quicker. Because all you have to do is come up with it. I think that's always true with writing. It's true with movies. It's true that you just come up with it, and you don't have to worry about what the hell you have to do to get it to actually hit the screen.
And then do you separate the production process from recording? So like vocals are going to be done totally after, or do those you mix it all?
What happens now, vocals are actually done very early on, and I didn't used to do that. But the reason I did that is because I do vocals, and then I do a lot of vocal harmonies also. And really, when you have vocals and you kind of have really rich vocal harmonies, you almost don't need any additional chordal stuff. I mean, you do, but you don't need that much. So I'm guessing you see where this is going. If you do the instruments first, you're going to jam all this chordal stuff in there, and then you just, you'll fill it up too much. But really, it's more important for me to fill more of it with the voice, and then do the instruments around that.
And then you can kind of use your voice as an instrument.
Yeah,
more like a keyboard almost.
I mean, well, yeah, because if there's a lot of vocal harmonies and stuff, you just you want to let that take its place, and then do whatever else you need to fill it in.
Okay.
Now, otherwise, you'd end up with too much.
Yeah, no, I totally get what you're saying. I've had problems whenever I find that I always produce my best stuff when I do everything in that order. I decide this is what the drums are going to be, this is what the keyboards are going to be, these are the melodies, and I separate those processes, because when I start kind of cross-contaminating in that sense, I start second guessing myself, and I end up changing little minute details that they take me away from releasing a project, which is the most important. I mean, in my opinion, doing something and getting it done is the most important thing over almost anything. I think you should be really picky about things, but getting something 110% is just going to keep you from putting things out. So I found that when I separate, all of my things into separate processes, to be honest, I kind of cheat a little bit. I tend to mix and produce at the same time, because I like to hear what the final product's going to sound like. But the writing and producing, I try to separate.
Yeah, I think it's good to at least throw a master compressor on things as you're working, just so you're a little bit less insecure during the process.
It gives it that finalized sound.
Yeah. It gives you a little bit extra confidence. But I mean, I should mention, I do the vocals first, but in order to do that, of course, I have to lay down temps to have something to sing over. So it's not like I sing it over nothing, right? So I put temp instruments down, which is enough to sing over. And the temp instruments, by the way, have to be strong enough to be good. So you got to have it's kind of weird because the temps have to be, sometimes I make that mistake and the temps are just too weak. And then the vocal ends up being weak because I don't have the kick slamming me in the face as much as I should. So you got to make sure the temps are, stage ready in terms of like strong enough to rock and roll. Right. And then I do the vocals, get the vocals all set. And then I erase 100% of the temps, which is kind of weird. It's kind of counterintuitive because demo syndrome It's like when the demo ends up more magical than anything else ever will be. So that's a thing. That's a real thing. Demo magic, the magic of demos. The first time you played it is the best. First take, beginner's luck. I don't know what you call it. Happens in the movies too. The first take is like magical, and you'll never get that back. So it's tempting. It's really tempting to want to use stuff from the temps. I don't have a good reason why I don't, but I always say that I'm going to use something from the temps, but it just never works out.
Do you
But
know?
I can never just, yeah, I don't know.
Did you know Uptown Funk? The Bruno Mars song.
Yeah, yeah,
That his vocal track is the temp track. It's on an
yeah.
SM58. They tried to
I believe it.
I had heard that they tried to go back and re-record it on like a U87 or something like that. Get the
Yeah,
studio vibe. And if you listen, you can totally hear it. They bury him, and then they
hmm
cover it with like his background singers and his hype men and all of that. They really
yeah,
try to layer it, and it's more rhythmic, which I
yeah,
think honestly helps the song a lot, because Uptown Funk is
yeah.
definitely like
There's not a, yeah.
it's definitely like an MJ inspired tune, and Michael
There's, I
Jackson was
mean,
the same way. Bury
yeah,
the
there's
vocals.
not a, there's not a damn thing wrong with using the demo as the final. I mean, a lot of my favorite, things to listen to, songs to listen to are people's demos. It's
Hmm.
like it's kind of unfair. I mean, it's kind of weird how, yeah, definitely demos. Yeah, demo syndrome.
You kind
The
of have to
magic
keep
of,
you have to keep an open mind that sometimes it can get better, but also sometimes it can't. Like
I
sometimes
know.
you just nailed it, and that's just the best thing to do.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, lyrically, I just in my opinion, tell me if you think I'm off here, but the sound of your lyrics kind of have a very like free flowing kind of stream
I
of
would, I
consciousness
would ask you
feel.
this: what do the lyrics sound like without the music?
To me, they sound like a poem
Without the music,
without the music. Very
yeah.
poetic, but poetic in a way where it's not as linear as other lyrics that I've heard. Now, tell
Because
me if you think that I'm off there.
how I would ask you how you've ever heard the lyrics without the music. What is your way of listening to lyrics without the music being there?
Sometimes, like there was a few of your songs where I didn't know exactly what you were saying, and so I would just read the lyrics. I guess not out loud. I would just read them in my head off of the internet.
Okay, I can't vouch for the experience of doing that. I can't vouch for the quality of the experience that you had while doing that. That's not the yeah. Maybe it's good, maybe it's not. That's why the lyrics the page of lyrics on my website is like has like a bright red background with bright yellow text, because I literally think I'm trying to discourage people from consuming the song in a lyrics only method, because I cannot promise that it will be any good that way. That's just not, you know.
No, I've heard lyrics of yours that are it's like obvious what the theme is. There are others where it seems like more of like a stream of consciousness kind of just a sound to me. Is there always like a deeper meaning to the songs that you think that a lot of people don't pick up, and they might just think it's more of kind of free flowing?
Well, it depends if they like it. If they really, really like the song, and then they're wondering if it means something, my head explodes when I hear that question, because I thought that really, really, really liking something was meaningful.
Hmm.
Is liking stuff a meaningful thing? Like, don't you think liking stuff is pretty meaningful?
That's pretty woke, Bill. That's
No,
some
I'm just
open
saying.
minded
Is am
shit.
I don't think it is. I think it's like kind of um, obvious.
It,
Liking stuff means something to me. I like liking stuff, and it makes me feel good. So like, yeah.
so your
But
point is
if
like
they don't like it, then they're probably not list. If they don't like it, then they probably are not listening to it.
so the
I,
meaningfulness is more on the listener and if they're enjoying it, rather than taking the lyrics apart and analyzing what you could have been meaning or
I
how you could
think I
interpret it.
think songs mean everything. Like songs mean so much. Like that's the thing about songs and songwriting and music and stuff. It's like it can get to places that you can't get to any other way. Well, no, you can get. I mean, like, but it's like it's just one of those things. It's like that's how you can embed meaning that goes beyond what you can just say with, I don't know, normal statements. Like that's what the whole deal is with taking words and music and situations and timing and doing it, because we're trying to get at something that can give you more than what you can get from just like a sentence on paper. So that's what it's all about. That's the whole thing. That's the whole game,
I
as far
like
as I'm
that.
concerned.
I like that
So
mindset.
you can see why I would make. So you can see why it would make my head explode if someone says, "Oh, so does what you're doing have meaning?" Like, yeah, like like that's literally why I'm into music and songwriting. It's like because I can't get to certain levels of meaning without combining music and words together in a way that they both interact with each other. So yeah, that's as far as I'm concerned. That's the whole game.
So a big part of your sound is literally the sound of the lyric, the rhythm of the lyric, and how it interacts with the music, rather than it just being,
And what the
words on a
words
song.
and what the words mean. And what the words mean. It goes both ways. It's not just instrumental music with words that sound a certain way. It's also what the words mean. It's together.
Have you ever thought about putting out a full album?
Well, yes, yes. Except I realized I don't like albums.
In what sense?
They don't seem to make the songs better for me.
Like you're
They don't.
gonna pick them apart and listen to them as singles no matter what.
At the risk of, well, I mean, everyone gets mad at me probably when I say this, but yeah, no, I don't. Albums don't work for me for whatever reason.
So we will not be seeing a Bill Wurtz album. You think that I mean, honestly, nowadays is the perfect time to remain releasing singles because I know
I
artists don't
I
want to talk about business, but
I like the idea of doing something that is more than just a bunch of songs. And in my opinion, the way to do that is not to put a bunch of songs in a list. In my opinion, what you want to do is take songs, non-songs, songs and scenes, put them together like that, and you're getting something that's more like a video content with scenes, dialogue, music, all woven together, which is similar to what they used to do. Well, they still do on stage. They call it musical productions, where you're mixing music and non-music. It turns out that's what I was going for. At one point, I bought into the whole thing about how like albums are like supposed to be. Well, most people think this, and I believe them. I'm not trying to say that like I'm right or they're wrong, but albums just don't work for me. They don't give me anything more than they're actually worse than a collection of songs because and what people usually say to me is like, oh yeah, well, what about these 5 albums that are like the greatest albums ever that everyone knows are actually I there's been some times where I was like really ready to like figure out what that's all about, and I'm like, give me the best albums. I won't name any names, but it's like I want to find those albums that really are like the ones that everyone always talks about as being like just the ones where it's really, really something special and like more than just a list of songs. And believe me, I was ready to have an experience.
mm-hmm.
I was really disappointed. To me, it not only didn't feel like anything more than a list of songs, it felt like less than a list of songs. It actually felt in every single case, it actually felt like the songs were not even in the best order. That's just what happened to me. I'm certainly not saying I'm right or wrong or anything. I'm just saying it just doesn't work for me. It makes me like all the songs less. Throughout my entire life, anytime I've ever got, like when I was a kid, I used to get a new album thinking like, this is great. There's going to be all kinds of good stuff on here. And it actually always seems to be very difficult to find the good songs. You just kind of plow through the songs like, no, that's not it. No, that's not it. No, that's not it. And you get to the end and you're like, oh, that was a waste. But on the other hand, if you're sitting in traffic and a car goes by with a song playing, it's like, whoa, what is that? I want that. Or like if you're in the waiting room somewhere and there's something on the radio, there's an extremely high probability for me that whatever individual song is playing there, I'm going to love it.
Mm-hmm.
Songs have a much, much higher success rate when they are just individually right here. This is the song. Here you go.
So in a situation like that, you're sitting at the doctor's, you're in your car or whatever, you hear a song. Do you immediately say like, I want to go listen, like I want to go make a song that gives me that kind of vibe, or do you purposefully not do that at the risk that
no, I'll do
it?
If I hear something great, in store, I am doing whatever I got to do to find it and get a copy so I can check it out.
I used to have a teacher, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, go ahead.
I used to have a teacher in college, and what he would have us do is he always said the main feel of a song is its arrangement. Everything else is just fluff. So what he used to have us do is he would have us take one of our favorite songs, write out the arrangement, intro, chorus, pre-chorus, bridge, all of that, and then write a completely new song with a different groove, different key, everything, but with that arrangement, so that way we're not ripping off melodies, we're not ripping off chord structures, but we're able to capture a feel that we already know that we enjoy.
Yeah.
And I found that was one of the I mean, it's one of the few things I remember from college, to be fully honest, because it's something
Hmm.
that really meant the most, because I would do that and I'd write something. I go like, man, this feels really good. It doesn't, if I wrote a song that felt like Thriller, I used the arrangement from Thriller. It doesn't sound like Thriller. No one's going to think, oh, this is Thriller, but it gives me that almost like nostalgic back of the brain
Yeah,
kind of itch that I want my music to give to somebody else, down the road. That
yeah,
was my perspective of it.
yeah.
But so when you since you've been creating music since 2014, you've been really releasing it, uploading it.
Right.
What was the first moment where you're like, holy shit, this is not just me making something anymore. Like this is really taking off. Like this is amazing. This is just very surprising.
I don't know. There were different ones. What do I say? By the way, it may have been no. Yeah, no. I don't know what to. I'm. What I said at the beginning is still true. Um. Yeah,
I don't mean to throw you any curveballs.
yeah. No, I don't know. I don't know what to. Yeah, different things, different times.
Well,
I don't know. I'm not sure. What was the question?
I'm just asking, like, what was the
I
first
don't know the
time?
answer. I don't know the answer.
I'll tell you my answer. The
I
first,
don't. I don't know if even. I don't know if it's even a good idea for me to answer that question. Actually, I don't know.
you don't want to like solidify it as you kind of want to keep it more open ended.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Are we? What are we? Yeah. What were you gonna say?
Well, what I was gonna say is that I've had a few like milestone moments where it's like, damn, this is like way better, than I did. The first time was Steve Porcaro from Toto was on the show, and then Steve Gadd.
Hmm.
And honestly, you being on the show is absolutely a total surprise, and I really appreciate it. So I have like a few moments that I kind of keep in my head that I like to have them down, know what they are, because trust me, with a show like this, I'm sending out a bunch of emails, I'm getting a bunch of no's if I'm even getting a response. So I like to have those things that when I'm feeling down, when I'm feeling like it's not working, I can go like, damn, like this
Yeah.
worked out in this one sense. That's how I like to approach it.
I had some CDs. This was around 2010. This was long before anything went online. But I had some CDs that I made and gave to like maybe two or three friends, and the multiplication rate was. I was pretty shocked
Hmm.
at how wide those spread. Every single one of them gave it to like a million people, and every single one of them gave it to a million people. And the response I got from that was phenomenal. Um,
How long ago was
it
that?
was, it was, this was in about 2010.
Okay. And
So nothing was online yet. This was all just CDs and stuff. But I was pretty shocked at the high rate of like positive feedback there was from people I didn't even know. Like in terms of they would get back to me and say, "Oh my god, I just gave this to everyone I know," and they gave it to everyone they know, and their cousins love it, and their dog loves it, and da 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 da. It was overwhelming. I mean, it really was.
now does
So
that
that gave me a boost of confidence for sure because the stuff was crappy production, but it was. I mean, it was weird stuff. I mean, it's all up there now, so you can whatever there was in about 2010. But yeah, it was a weird. Yeah, it was weird stuff.
do you ever
So I was
think
just trying
about
to.
going back
Yeah.
and writing like even more out stuff like it was
Oh,
back in the day?
absolutely. And I do. A lot of the times, that is still a strong ingredient is just trying to shake myself and remind myself that I'm alive and I'm not just trying to sound normal.
Do you ever
It's always
keep
a good
it
ingredient.
do you keep it in your head when you're writing something like, I really like this, maybe I'm pushing it a little bit too far out, cuz I love out shit. Like I
Yes.
love it. Do you keep that in your head?
Every every moment of the entire process, I am worried about a whole array of opposing things. At every moment, I'm worried it's too smart, too dumb, too weird, too normal, too fast, too slow, too loud, too quiet. You'll notice these all come in pairs of opposites. At every single moment, I have immense fear about it being both ways on many different spectrums. So yeah,
And
I worry about all of it.
now how much does that actually change the final product?
Probably makes it take longer.
So you don't think it actually changes, it just kind of like it's like a roadblock.
I think it probably means that it means that I care a lot. So it means that I'm like gonna do my damn hardest to like try to get through that by remedying all those things at the same time. So it means I'm gonna be doing on my attempting to be on my absolute best game all the time, um, probably, drives me insane in the process. But at least it means I'm like not phoning it in ever.
Is
But
there anyone who makes anything where it like doesn't drive them at least a little bit crazy? Like I think it has to.
it's very, very common. I mean, it's like really, really common with people that create stuff, because if you want to create stuff, it probably means you really care about what you're doing. And if you really, really care about what you're doing, some of the time it's going to feel awesome, but then there's no limit to how much you can care about it. So you'll drive yourself insane. But I think there's actually significant portion of the artist population that is a lot more carefree, a lot more relaxed, and has a much happier time in general, or just has a much easier, just like, yeah, is less hung up desperately on everything. I definitely know there's at least some people that are a little more chill about that.
So how do you keep yourself from spiraling too hard? Do you have techniques, or do you just kind of adapt depending on what it is?
Yeah, I mean, I know about relaxing and stuff. I'm pretty good at it, but it's still. But the other side of the coin, right, is there's super high highs too when things are going really well, and I think I've discovered like something that's going to like break into a whole new universe or something. There's wicked high highs, which is of course what drives me to get into all this stuff in the first place.
What are some moments that where you felt that, besides that, the CD releasing? Where were moments where you felt that really like intense high?
I mean, anytime many times during the production and writing process of anything, there's moments when it feels like it's all going great and I'm just on top of the world.
Do you let the amount of views that each one of your songs get dictate anything? Do you let it really get to you, or do you say, you know what, maybe this is more for me than someone else? If it gets less views than maybe the video or the song before it.
Well, the best thing to do is try not to pay too much attention to it.
So you try not to check analytics, anything like that?
Oh, and never touch analytics. Never do that. That's like licking poison. I don't know how anyone ever looks. I don't know how anyone ever looks at that. That's insane.
It must make people like, especially if someone at your level, if you were checking analytics all the time, and I know there are people like that, people who are getting millions of views and they're checking every comment. I don't get how you couldn't be insane. I just heard a clip from Bill Maher's podcast, and someone asked him, "Are you affected by negative reception, comments, and all that?" And he was saying, I think you'd expect someone like Bill to be like, "Nah, fuck them. I don't feel that way." And he was like, "I totally do. Everyone does. Everyone feels that way."
Everyone does. And then there's a phenomenon where you hear like 99 amazing comments and one terrible one, and you focus on the terrible one. I mean, that's common.
I once, when
everyone's like that.
When I interviewed Steve Procaro, he wrote the song "Human Nature" for Michael Jackson.
Right. Yep.
And I misspoke, which I do all the time. I'm sure I misspoke 75 freaking times today in this show, the one before this. I misspoke something, and I got like a 5 or 6 paragraph comment about I was some inept college kid who went on Wikipedia the night before and didn't do his research. And it was like, I got a bunch of nice comments. They mean nothing. I mean, I like them. I appreciate it. But that mean comment, I was like, damn, I get like no views and I still got a negative comment.
Yeah.
But sometimes you just got to be above that, Bill. You got to be, I did it. 2. There you go. Name in the middle.
I'm not getting, I think I missed a bunch of them. Yeah.
I'm sure I did it. I think it's just like a New York thing that you throw someone's name in the middle.
I don't think that's true. I don't think that's the right, I don't think that's what it is. It's something else, but it's not that.
It's a personality defect, probably.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
It's a personality enhancement.
I didn't even mean to. This is a little game to distract me from like how beginner I am in this format.
Well, Bill, this has been absolutely incredible. I don't know if you're paying attention, but we're at 8:45, Bill. We're right on the money.
Are you doing it now on purpose?
What?
Are you doing it now on purpose? You just did it twice.
Oh no, that was just Nat. That's subconscious. I'm not doing it on purpose.
Right.
But let me just say thank you so much for joining me tonight. I appreciate it more than you can even know. Before I let you go, I don't know how much you like to promote things, but is there anything you'd want people to check out? Anything you want to say?
No. The fact that I put it on the internet, that's my way of giving people a chance to check it out. So I've done my part. You can add anything else you want to on top of that. It's there.
Well, Bill, you killed it. Thank you so much.
hilarious.
No, you did. This has been an amazing time, and I do a ton of these. Well, this is 35. I've done 35 of these now, but
That's good. I'm jealous. I got to start doing what you do.
well, keep in touch with me. I have figured out essentially 1,000 flukes with like this kind of thing. Obviously, I'm still learning by a ton, but if you have any questions about like software, hardware, any of that kind of bullshit that makes you want to, jump out the window, which it does to me every time I have to fix some freaking technical problem, let me know, because I've been through the ringer. I've been doing this for a couple of years. I sound like a baby. 2 years is nothing, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Well, Bill, thank you so much. Thank you to everyone who watched. I appreciate it. We're going to be live, I think, in 2 weeks, and then we're booked for like all of March, so you can look forward to some streams then. Thank you, everybody, and I'll see you next time.